Hello, everyone, fellow aviators, aspiring young aviation professionals, parents, teachers, counselors, administrators, professors, advisors, and everyone else who is watching and listening. Welcome to All Things Aviation and Aerospace. I'm Vince Mickens. It's been about 2 years since I last did a 2-day comprehensive tour at Delta Airlines headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, which included a tech tour and a flight operations tour. It's also when I met the head of its Propel Pilot Career Path program and was so impressed with that program that I featured it on my show in October of 2021. Well, as the saying goes, time flies and a lot has happened in the last couple of years. Most recently, as in this month, of course, I would like to think that it was because of my August 1st birthday, had to throw that in there, but we know that's wishful thinking. Delta Airlines officially opened the Propel Academy to offer aspiring young aviators another way to become an airline pilot. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about that, along with the latest on the Propel Collegiate Pilot Career Path and Company Pilot Career Path programs. So let's see who's sitting around the table today. First, let me welcome back the General Manager of Delta's Propel Pilot Career Path program, Kelvin Mason. Kelvin is a 25-year veteran of Delta Airlines with a Bachelor of Arts degree from Berry College in Rome, Georgia. Kelvin, it's great to have you back, and it's been fun connecting with you the last couple of summers at EAA AirVenture in Oshkosh.
Thanks, Vince. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you again. Like you mentioned, quite a bit has changed in our program since the fall of 2021 when we last spoke. That was really us coming out of the pandemic and getting back into full operating mode. And we've had a lot of exciting things happen since then. And probably the most exciting is that we've had several people actually complete the program and make it to Delta. So that includes Sydney Robinson, who was a guest on your show on that session back in October of 2021, and the 2 pilots who will be speaking with us today.
Yeah, that's really great. I'm really looking forward to that aspect of talking about things because of those accomplishments. Next, we have Kelvin's Manager of Pilot Development, speaking of pilots, Martin Rottler. Martin is a UND, University of North Dakota graduate with a master's in education. And also during that time, he did a stint at the Korea Aerospace University. Martin, we're going to have to definitely talk about Propel's pilot development program, but we also have to hear about your experience at Korea Aerospace University. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and hello to everybody that's watching as well. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm also meeting for the first time Jackie Austin. Jackie is the manager of the new Propel Academy that we've been talking about, and she went to school in cold country just like Martin, receiving a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Management from Minnesota State University, Mankato. And I just found out, I hope I said that right, but I just found out that she's actually from Minnesota, so she's kind of used to the cold weather. And that's southwest of Minneapolis, right, Jackie?
That's correct. Thanks for having me, Vince.
Yep, great to have you on the show. Did I say that right? Is it Mankato?
Mankato.
Mankato. I knew you were going to tell me that. Oh, well. Making up my own names.
Which that's also one of our Propel Collegiate Path partner university schools.
Oh, awesome. That's great to hear. So for part of this discussion, I'm really looking forward to talking with, as Kelvin just mentioned, 2 actively flying Delta pilots who both benefited from Propel and are both on an upward trajectory. Get it? Upward trajectory? Okay, fine. Told you I was going to crack a couple of corny ones. Moving right along, I'll start with Ronald McKenzie, who is currently a first officer flying Boeing 737s for Delta. Ronald's entree to that job was flying for the feeder airline Endeavor. Ronald studied at Middle Tennessee State University, receiving his Bachelor of Science in Aerospace with a professional pilot concentration. That's one of those great schools that we don't hear enough about. Ronald, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's truly an honor.
Absolutely. And then flying Boeing 767 and 57s as a first officer is Hemal Kataria. Hemal actually came from within the ranks of Delta as a revenue management inventory analyst. She has her Bachelor of Science degree in urban policy studies with an aviation management focus. We'll have to hear about that. And is the perfect example of Propel's company career path program. Hemal, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, happy to be representing Delta and Propel also.
Well, it's really great to have everybody here, and it's a great program. I'm going to start with you, Kelvin, and let you tell us a little bit overall about what's been happening the last couple of years and how Propel, and I can't resist, has accelerated in terms of its accomplishments and what it's doing.
Sure. Well, back up actually a step before that, the program launched in the 2018 timeframe as the first pathway program to a major carrier. And we were really in a mode of growth up until the pandemic happened in early 2020. So around the time that we spoke in the fall of 2021, that's when we started to see signs of life in terms of leisure travel rebound and the need to really start our recruiting programs back up with Delta. So that's when we really breathed life back into the program and got back into growth mode again. Since then, we've added new additional partner universities. We've added new ways for people to pursue this pathway. And as I mentioned, we've had people actually who stuck with it during the pandemic, continue to persevere, and completed all the requirements of the program and were able to successfully transition to Delta. Our first participant did that in the fall, just after we spoke, sort of the end of 2021. And then in 2022 and through this year, we've had several who've completed all the steps. And we now have over 160 who've done that and are now flying for us at Delta. So the program is definitely paying dividends. We see it really just being a key component on how we select, identify, and develop the next generation of Delta pilots.
Yeah, and that said, let's talk about your newest thing, and that's the new Academy. Tell us about that and what that all entails and what it provides for potential pilots.
Sure. The impetus for that was that although we were very happy with our two existing pathways, the ones for the company side of Propel and the collegiate side of Propel, those are the eligibility for those two pathways is very specific. So it's either you had to be a current Delta employee in some capacity, or you had to be a college aviation student enrolled at one of our partner universities. And we really wanted to open the aperture and allow anyone to pursue this opportunity who wanted it to express an interest and do so. So that's where the Academy came from. So we spoke with several different several different flight schools across the country and found what we thought was the perfect opportunity with Skyborne, which is located down in Vero Beach, Florida, in what was previously the Flight Safety Academy. And so it's a great location. They have a 40-acre campus. They have on-site residences, a great staff, a great operation. And so we thought that would be the perfect place to launch our academy. So we have that now set up in partnership with Skyborne. People can apply with essentially no previous flight experience whatsoever, as long as they meet some basic eligibility criteria, like being at least 18 years of age, having a first-class medical certificate. They can apply for this opportunity, attend Skyborne's accelerated flight training program, and navigate a similar pathway to our collegiate and company pathways to eventually transition on and become a Delta Airlines pilot.
Yeah, if I have my notes correct, Jackie, you actually managed that program or involved with that, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I just got back from a visit last night.
Oh, awesome. So tell us about that. Tell us your aspect of it and what you do with the Academy.
So my role is
and with Propel.
Yeah, my role oversees that program. I will be managing the students and our team of program leaders that will be involved in the Academy. We have a brand new refurbished 12,000 square foot co-branded facility for training down there, where students will come in and have a place for classes and study rooms. We'll have some office space for them to interact with our staff. And so we have a plan to be down there regularly visiting with the students and the faculty and, continuing this partnership.
Yeah, so you are from Minnesota. You went to school there and everything. How did aviation get on your radar?
Surprisingly, it was word of mouth from some Northwest retirees when I was living in Minnesota still. And Endeavor Air was transitioning their new headquarters to Minneapolis, and found out through some other from some networking that they were, hiring and trying to ramp up their operations. So I decided to give it a shot after graduating, and started in their HR department. And then the majority of my time with them was in pilot hiring. And that pretty much led me to where I am today, and all the connections that I've made through Endeavor Air's connection to Delta.
So when you studied business management, business administration and management, was aviation on the radar at that time when you were going to school, or was it something that kind of you fell into, for lack of a better way of putting it?
For me, it was the latter. I kind of fell into it. I have a few extended family members that are in the industry, but no one that was, an immediate family member, getting to see that journey. So it just kind of organically happened later on in my career.
Yeah. So you kind of fell into it, and it organically happened. You're now involved with the Propel program. Tell us what your perspective is in terms of your observation of, the people that are coming through the program and how it's benefiting them.
Well, this flight academy is going to be huge. It's, a wonderful way for all of these individuals that we typically speak to at all the various events and outreach events that we go to on a regular basis. Like Kelvin said, our previous pathways were very specific in how you are able to apply and get into those programs. And so our brand new flight academy really broadens the scope of applicants to allow anyone who's, had this dream and had this vision of one day becoming an airline pilot. Plus, we have various financial incentives to help them along the way. Yeah.
Martin, you're involved with your manager, actually, of the pilot development portion of Propel. Tell us about your responsibilities with that, what that means, and exactly what you do.
Yeah, it's a busy job. We have partnerships existing with 17 universities around the United States, as far west as California, as far south as Embry-Riddle and Daytona Beach, as far north as North Dakota. So we have pretty good geographic coverage of what is our largest part of the Propel program, and those are students that are receiving degrees from one of our partner schools. So the team that we have responsible for that includes some core team leaders that are responsible for processing everything on the back end, for scheduling, for sending things out. But the really awesome part of this is that it's truly a pilot-led and pilot-focused recruiting effort. So we have over 150 pilots that support the Propel program, whether it's on-campus liaisons that are the face and voice of Delta on our campuses, mentors that help support students from when they start in Propel all the way through their academic careers, and then when they're at the regional, and eventually till the time they come to Delta, which is a unique opportunity for students as well as a unique opportunity for the pilots themselves to help someone from, for lack of a better term, the beginning to the end of their development. And then we have other pilots that support our interviews, application reviews, and things like that. So every step of the way, we have a program that is pilot focused and pilot run. With that, we also have another pathway that I manage that is called our community pathway. And that's for students that are at an RATP institution that are not currently partnered with Propel, that are involved with community organizations like Latino Pilots Association, NGPA, Women in Aviation, OBAP, as well as Professional Asian Pilots Association, NIFA, the flight team organization, and alumni of the Minnesota ACE Camp and Sisters of the Skies. So for those students, that gives them an opportunity to join the Delta family as well. And then in addition, we have pathways for flight ops interns, Endeavor ambassadors that are not at our partner universities, because Endeavor has ambassadors elsewhere, that are part of this as well. So it's primarily collegiate focused and collegiate forward, looking at those pilots that are restricted ATP eligible to move them as fast as possible. And that makes up the largest part of our population of current Propel participants, as well as those that have made the big move from college to Delta connection carrier onward to Delta as a whole.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about the flight operation internship and the ambassador for Endeavor.
So the flight operations internship program is managed by a different part of the division, but students as early as their sophomore to junior year are eligible. We post internship offer postings for summer, spring, and fall semesters. Typically, they require you to have at least a private pilot certificate, but if you have more than that, that is helpful. And interns will be assigned to a different part of the Delta flight ops community and division. So we have an intern that runs our flight simulator tours. We have an intern that works with the chief pilot's office. We have an intern that works with flight safety. So it gives you a full opportunity to delve right into something operationally here at Delta to give you some better experience. Endeavor runs their own ambassador program where they have ambassadors on campus that help with events, that help promote Endeavor on campus. It's a program that they run themselves. They hire their own students and students to participate in the program. They get some benefits with that as well. But as a, for lack of a better term, a thank you for their efforts on promoting Endeavor on campus, we do allow those that are not at our partner universities to apply and be eligible for Propel.
Yeah. Speaking of pilot development and everything, Ronald, you indicated in your background that you have had a passion for aviation for a very long time. Where does that come from? Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with all this.
Sure. So I'm born and raised here in Atlanta, Georgia. And so growing up, Delta was pretty much all that I knew, you know. I didn't really know any other airline that existed in the city. I mean, Delta pretty much sponsors every sports team in Atlanta. You know, you go around the city, they have billboards everywhere. And when I was a kid, my mom traveled a lot for work, and all she ever flew was Delta. So she was a medallion member. So we had sky miles, you know, from here to far. So
for days.
Yeah, for days. Yeah, for days. So, you know, and me and my three little brothers, all of us as a family, you know, she would use the miles and we would go see my family in California. And I'll never forget in 2006, I was old enough to remember, you know, that I was actually on a plane, and I went up to the cockpit and sat in the captain's seat and put on the hat. And I knew right then, I was like, yeah, I want to fly this thing. Like, this is something that I want to do. And Delta's just a company that I've always wanted to work for. You know, the respect that they get, they take well of their customers and their employees. You always knew nothing less but the best when you book for Delta. So, you know, I stuck with it. I didn't really know how to become a pilot, but through the help of OBAP, which I'm an active member of, that's how I got involved. And Delta sponsored that in Atlanta as well. So, you know, I feel like I owe Delta. You know, I'm committed to them, and here I am paying them back.
Yeah, so OBAP is, for those who aren't necessarily familiar with the term of it, it is the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals. You guys have brought it up a couple of times, so I figured I should let the audience know in case they're not familiar. It's a great organization nationwide and does a lot of things for getting young people involved in aviation. So you went to Middle Tennessee State and studied aviation there, and studied aerospace, and then also tell us about how you found Tennessee State, Middle Tennessee State, and pick the programs you do, including the professional pilot program.
Sure. Yeah. So Middle Tennessee actually wasn't my first option. Just like pretty much every other aspiring aviators, I was looking at Embry-Riddle down in Florida. But at the time, it just wasn't, you know, financially able for my parents to do so. Middle Tennessee was the next option. And at the time when I graduated high school, there wasn't a 4-year degree program in the state of Georgia until Middle Georgia got their accreditation, I believe, in like 2018. So Tennessee, I was able to go out of state and pay state tuition at Middle Tennessee. So it worked out for my parents. You know, I was far enough to where my parents couldn't drive to come see me, and I was able to enjoy my college experience while learning how to be a pilot. And it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Middle Tennessee was one of the best best flight schools I can ever vouch for. So it was an amazing experience, and I would send anybody to that school to this day.
Sure. Connect us, great plug for Middle Tennessee State, well deserved. Connect us with how you went from Middle Tennessee to get involved with Propel.
Sure. So I remember when Delta Propel was introduced at Middle Tennessee back in 2018, and I knew right then, I said, I need to go home, and I applied immediately because I knew I already had a job offer with Endeavor because in my eyes, they were owned by Delta. That was the quickest way to get there. And I saw Propel just another opportunity for me to achieve my dream. And I applied and luckily and passed the interview. I didn't know what to expect, but all I knew was just to be myself and show that I wanted to work for Delta someday. And I was blessed for it to pass the interview and stuck with it over the years, even through COVID. And Propel kept us all through the loop, even not sure where the industry was going. So it's been a great experience. It all kind of happened very quick. I didn't expect to be here. I just graduated college 2 years ago. So it's all happened pretty quick. And that just shows the reliability of the program. You know, they promise to get you there as soon as they can, as long as you put in the work. So it's been very, very beneficial on my part.
And mom must be, the medallion member must be quite proud.
Oh yeah, they are. I'm still trying to get them to use the flight benefits, but yeah, they're proud.
Mom and dad.
Yeah, most definitely. My little brother actually just started flight school last week at Middle Georgia, so trying to keep it going.
Oh wow, keeping it in the family. Very good. That's pretty cool. I was going to come back to you, Kelvin, and ask you to tell us a little bit more about your university partnerships, the schools that you have partnerships with, and how that program is going, and your expansion plans with it.
Sure, happy to. So as Martin mentioned, we have 17 partner universities across the U.S. And you know, there frankly aren't that many college aviation programs in the U.S. Aviation programs are expensive for universities to have and maintain. You have to either own your own aircraft and maintain them, and simulators and all the things that go with it, or you have to partner with a flight school that's going to do that sort of provide those assets for you and provide that those resources for you. It's a lot for university to take on. And so because there's sort of a finite number, we're able to really do a deep dive and evaluate all the schools out there and figure out which work best for us from a partnership standpoint, taking into things like things like how many students they have, where they typically go after they graduate, geographic proximity to Delta, you know, the quality of their programs, all these sorts of things. So we have a very broad network today. Right now, as we've just taken on this new academy concept, which is brand new to us, we're taking a bit of a pause in terms of adding new universities, but we kind of keep an eye on the landscape, and we'll definitely seek to partner with schools that are going to be of benefit to Delta.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was thinking about the other aspect of your program that involves people that work for Delta having an opportunity to move into a pilot path and actually become a pilot for Delta. And we have one such person right here on the show, Hemal. Hemal, you have a kind of a unique situation there. I mean, what you studied in school. Well, first of all, I wanted to ask you about that because I think you studied urban studies, but with an aviation emphasis. What exactly is that?
So at Georgia State University, when I was going there, the School of Aviation fell under the School of Urban Policy Studies. So the aviation management course that they had fell under the School of Policy Studies, and there were about 8 courses that you could take. But the urban policy degree also came with learning all about public policy writing and city development and just, you know, economics and whatnot. So to find a program that fell under another university program was something very unique that Georgia State was offering at the time.
Yeah, so you studied that and everything. You are from India originally, but you grew up in Atlanta. Where did aviation come into play, and how did that come about?
So incredibly unique story. And, I think I had said earlier that I was exposed to aviation very early on. Born in India, my dad was a pilot as well. And he was a pioneer of charter services in India. So my sister and I essentially grew up with going to preschool in his small airplane because he would have to shuttle us back and forth to a larger city where he had his base. So the aviation exposure was at a very young age. I probably before birth, it was just in me, something that I was exposed to early on. And then when we moved to the States, he used to work for Eastern Airlines. And I grew up here in Atlanta, and Atlanta, with Delta being the hometown airline, for me, it was a path and it was a trajectory of what I wanted. So just keeping with that in mind, I try to charter a path to where I wanted to be. And I think later on when we speak a little bit more, that's where kind of Propel comes into play as well.
Yeah, so you worked for the airline for Delta for I forget how many years. As what was the position again?
So it was in revenue management, and I was in
Revenue
inventory
management,
analyst.
yeah.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of numbers and a lot of amazing people who basically helped understand how markets are sold based on what the competitors were doing. So how seats are sold based on what the competitors are doing. And that's something that I stumbled upon when I was taking classes at Georgia State University. One of the professors was a Delta director who came and taught a class on revenue management. And you learned a lot about the airline business at the university as well. So it was the job that I did was an inventory analyst job. And I started off with a small market like Norfolk or Pennsylvania. And then you grew as an inventory analyst. I managed New York. And then I also managed Seattle before I took my leave of absence to go continue my flying. So very interesting pathway, but the job was really amazing because I learned on the non-operation side, on the management side, as to what every single customer meant to Delta and what the high valued customers meant, and also what every individual that was boarding an airplane meant for Delta when it came to profitability.
So you have a different perspective as a pilot in terms of how Delta operates and what Delta means to its customers, et cetera. So when you with the Propel program, and it was relatively new, how did you find out about it and end up applying, et cetera?
So I had some amazing leaders that helped supported my leave before the Propel program was introduced in 2018. I believe my very first conversations were with Kelvin in 2016, where we talked about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to come back to Delta. So I left in 2016. And 2018, the program was introduced. And then later on, it was opened up for individuals that were already flying at a regional, but the leave was still supported by Delta. So Propel kind of came into place, and I want to say right after COVID for me. After the pandemic was over, they opened it up to individuals that were already on a leave of absence, also flying for a regional that was supported by the program. So through that channel, I was able to apply to the Propel Advanced program and get an interview at Delta and come through that program.
Yeah. Let me open this back up to you, Kelvin, Jackie, and Martin about the academy and about the pilot development in terms of how many students, if you will, are going to be able to attend the academy and things like that. I want to get into a little more detail for our viewers, for our audience.
Well, I can get started there. We currently have about 50 students who are in classes at Skyborn as we speak. We started with 2 classes of 20 students each, and then we're planning on 10 students each month for the rest of this year.
Got you. I don't know, but Kelvin, did you want to expand on that a bit, or Martin?
Sure. So I think kind of at a high level, Propel is intended to make up at least a third of Delta's overall hiring. So among our 3 primary pathways, the collegiate, company, and academy side, we expect to bring in, hundreds of participants through Propel and onto Delta on an annual basis. Some of that is still being worked through as the program continues to grow, and obviously as the airline continues to come out of and recover from the pandemic. But overall, that's our game plan.
Got you. Martin?
From the university perspective, we want as many qualified, high quality applicants as we can get. And that's a nice place to be at. We are growing our presence on campuses, trying to catch everyone's attention and where we are at, and know that it's a highly competitive environment. So with that, I have a number in mind, but I don't typically share that with everybody of what I want. But I just know that we are looking at that third of Delta's pilot hiring in the future and adjusting as needed to get to that point. So, I always encourage folks to review the qualifications, particularly on the university side. Review those qualifications, make sure you are ready to go. You have everything ready to go, and, qualifications and following the process. It's open to all that meet those and that get through the process as well.
Yeah. Can you guys, any of you, talk about some of the benefits that becoming a pilot for Delta is, the people get as a result of that? I mean, this why it's so great to fly with Delta and some of the things that you guys offer.
I almost want to spin it back to the pilots to give that little pilot perspective. I can talk about my experience as a manager, but I think the pilots are the ones that are actively flying and experiencing life. So Hemal, Ronald, I think that one I defer to you to talk a little bit about what the flight life is like.
And defer we will. Hemal, Ronald?
I'll start. I think for me personally, growing up in a town where Delta was the #1 airline, it meant a level of quality, a level of professionalism, a level of community, also a level of camaraderie amongst everybody, not just from a pilot perspective. And because I have a unique perspective into this job, I see how people have come together, not just from a corporate side as well, but when Delta is represented anywhere, it's not just the pilots that are represented. Like you said, there are 3 individuals here that represent the Propel core team. But when we step out and represent Propel as pilots, it's not just Delta pilots. It's also we as Delta overall. But as far as the job is concerned, it's an amazing job. You go really unique places, you get to experience a really unique different lifestyle, and you meet some amazing people along the way. Something that I really love about being part of an airline is just the different people that you'll fly with. You don't fly with the same individual on a day-to-day basis, unless it's just a trip that you're doing, but you meet so many different unique personalities, not just from a pilot perspective, but from the rest of the cabin crew perspective as well. So for me, I thrive in those kind of environments, and to meet new people, to go to different cities is something where I just get really excited to do. So if I'm not working, I'm like, when am I working next? Because it's not really a job. I think it's just kind of a big playground, essentially.
I've heard that more than once. Ronald, how about you?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Hemal, just in Atlanta, the level of prestige that Delta just brings. I mean, it's obvious, and I think it's just something that everyone knows. Growing up, my parents would always used to say, when you pay to travel, you pay for the experience. It's worth every single dollar, and I feel like that's one thing that Delta just always brings. And now that I'm, on the other side, an actual employee, they treat us so well, even through the whole training experience, my in-dock experience and my wing ceremony, it was everything that I dreamed of. It really showed that Delta wants us to be here. And that's the biggest thing for me. And yeah, all the traveling, the amazing layovers. I mean, my first trip was to Cancun, Mexico on my first day in a beautiful hotel. And, I fell in love. I was like, this is it. I finally made it. So, it's little stuff like that lets me know that I'm at the right place. And like I said before, Delta treats their employees amazing, to the amazing contract we have, to the profit sharing every year, to the various events they have on Delta's campus. It's almost too much. It's almost too much to take in. So, I feel like the actions that they show, not only to their customers, but to their employees speaks for itself.
Yeah. You say you finally made it, but you're just getting started. You do realize
I know
that,
that's the best part about it. I'm just getting started. So it's like if it's this and I'm just getting started, I can only imagine what the rest of my career has in store. So
let me ask both you and Hemal, for young people that are watching in high school, or maybe they're in college, or maybe they've just graduated from college, but they're trying to figure out next steps career-wise and things like that. What is some of the advice that you would give them from your experiences?
If I could say, I would say don't limit yourself. I think speaking from my young and being a minority, we're not exposed to certain things growing up, like being a pilot or being a doctor, being a lawyer, some of those high value jobs that you think are just unreachable. And, I would just say, don't limit yourself and don't be afraid to ask for help. I had a mentor in high school who is still very close to this day. I can call him for anything. I can text him for anything. He's a Delta pilot. And he literally watched me from the time that I soloed my first airplane till I completed my first check ride at Delta. So, definitely having a mentor, because I believe we all need somebody to show us the way. Everybody got to where they wanted to be to the help of somebody else. So that would be my advice to give.
How about you, Hemal?
I think those 2 points are really, really great points. Again, being a female in this industry, you have to ask questions. You have to talk to individuals who, can point you in the right direction. If they don't know this person, then they may know somebody else. So if you don't ask questions, how are you going to get to the next step? So that's very important as a young aviator. And, be curious, going to air shows, going to any event that's locally supported, if not by an airline, but just by your local airport, going to things that interest you and speaking to individuals that could lead you in the right direction are two things that I highly value and recommend that young people do. And then look into programs. We have community outreach programs where we go and speak about Propel and Delta and things of that nature. So definitely shift your focus to asking really good questions and just knowing about the local events that happen where people can educate you on certain things.
Martin, as manager of pilot development, what would you add to that?
I would absolutely agree with what Hemal and Ronald have said. I would also add that it's not just what you know in the aviation industry, it's also who you know, and that your network is incredibly important. Ronald mentioned his mentor. I have mentors of my own, and it is insane how small of a world the aviation industry is. We can't not walk through an airport, whether it's Atlanta, Minneapolis, or somewhere else, and run into people that we know. So to that end, I say it's two things. One, from a professional development perspective, it's never too early to start networking. So if you are a high school student that is interested in some kind of aviation career, start meeting people. Hemal mentioned some of the community outreach efforts. Those are great ways to meet people. I always say that the reason why I'm at Delta, the first job I had, I was made aware of here at Delta because of someone I went to aerospace camp with when I was 14 years old and remained friends with and kept and followed through the aviation industry. And now here I am 20 some years later with an awesome job and what I would argue is my dream job for some way, shape, or form. So from that perspective, obviously it's good because you have people that are cheering you on along the way. You have folks that are genuinely interested. And for the most part in the aviation industry, we all care about this industry. We are highly passionate about it and we want others to succeed. We need others to succeed in this industry because we don't have enough people as a whole across all of the aviation jobs that we have. And the other thing with that being a small world is be very careful of how you interact with others and how you interact with people. It is a very small world and burning bridges can be hugely detrimental to your career. So those two things with regards to networking, and then also Hemal has a great story, and I think it's important for everyone to be a student of the industry, to understand what it is that a revenue management person does, what a network planning person does, what a safety person, a ground person. It makes you better at your career role, whether it's a pilot or a manager or something else. And it helps you understand what your employer is actually doing. So, I always listen in on financial reporting calls and understand and try to understand what our company is doing and what our competitors are doing and how we can potentially help to make that better, because that positively improves my profit sharing check and make sure I have a job in the future. So, those kind of things are really important for anyone, regardless of the pathway, whether you're in the collegiate path, looking at the academy, or a Delta employee that's looking at the next steps in your career if you want to be a pilot.
Yeah, those are great points that all of you are bringing up, and particularly what you just said, Martin. And it really resonates with me too. This is a small industry. It's a big, small industry. And so making sure that you don't burn bridges and are aware of, kind of, as we would say as pilots, situational awareness, but, be on top of things, because you never know. And I'll add to that you don't know who you'll meet that may come into play somewhere down the road. With it. It may be a very casual situation. You may see them at some aviation event, but they may have something significant to do with your career several years later. So that's an important thing. I also like what Hemal brought up about making sure that you reach out and talk to people. You said it too. You said networking, but reaching out and talking to people in the industry, learning as much as you can about the industry, and things like that. So now I'm going to go back, Martin, because I was wondering, and I almost forgot because we were talking about some other things, but I wanted to ask you, you went to like one of the aviation universities, but you studied education. And you just said that at 14, you went to aerospace camp. How does all of that come together?
So I always like to say I'm a professional aviation nerd. I grew up, before the call we were talking, Vince, I grew up about a mile and a half, or maybe mile and a half north of the Centennial Airport in Denver, Colorado. So I had airplanes flying outside my bedroom window all the time. I don't know if that's nature versus nurture or what, but it just so happened I did my first flight at 10, first flight lesson at 10. I had my 6th birthday at the Stapleton Airport in Denver, Colorado. Stapleton was an airport years old, for those that are out there. And it's been a passion of mine forever. And I went to UND, was one of those unfortunate millennials that went to school from 2004 to 2008 and graduated in the first of 2 once-in-a-lifetime economic crises that have kind of affected those that are millennial aged, and went from being a professional flight minor and having all my pilot certificates at UND to an airline industry that wasn't hiring. And so ended up going and continuing on at UND because they offered to pay for it, a master's in education, and which was a unique kind of segue. I student taught in a physical science class for 9th graders. And built up some education credentials that allowed me to segue to the Ohio State University as a faculty member, where I got to do industry relations stuff and lead up the program's industry relations stuff work, where I gained the ability to talk both university and airline, which has helped in my current career path as well. Which has led me to leading a cadet program for one of American's wholly owned Envoy, and now coming to Delta and being over pilot development for Delta and flight ops. So with that, and I know you mentioned it earlier, I also had the opportunity during my grad school career to intern for Korean Air, participate in a summer program with Korea Aerospace University, which then leveraged to a visiting professorship for 4 summers at Korea Aerospace University as part of their international summer program. So I would fly over for a month, teach about 60 to 80 students from around the world, and then fly home and continue teaching at Ohio State. So it's been an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different experiences, a whole bunch of different things along the way, to get me to where I am now. But the biggest thing with that was just keep pushing on, keep going through and learning and experiencing as much as you can, because that opens up more doors than you would ever imagine.
Absolutely. Well, what a great experience with Korea Aerospace University. First of all, great story overall in terms of everything that you just shared with us. But the Korea Aerospace University, I'm just curious about it. I'm sure maybe some of our audiences too. Is it similar to a University of North Dakota in terms of their programs, or a little bit different?
It's a little bit different. It's smaller, and they have a couple of campuses. They have one, just like literally one subway stop outside of Seoul proper, but it's in Seoul, the metro area. And then they have another couple of facilities that are in Korea, including their flight training, which is actually on Jeju Island, which is Korea's Hawaii, for lack of a better term. So it's very different. They have a lot of folks that will go fly. They have a lot of students that will go into management and support type roles or operational roles. But their program is around the same amount of time. But they have had international students come in. They've paused the international program because of COVID, and I hope that they pick it back up soon, because it's a fantastic opportunity for students from the United States and around the world to not only experience a different country and experience a different culture, but also network with people all around the world. And to be there, to say that I have former students that live in Australia, India, the UK, Germany, all over the place is a really cool thing to have in my back pocket, especially if I need some place to stay or restaurant recommendations when I'm traveling.
All right, curiosity satisfied. We can move back to Propel.
Good.
No, but Jackie, you have a front row seat. So continuing the conversation about what you would advise for the young people that are watching, you have a front row seat to the students that are going to the academy and all the things that entails. What's your take on it in terms of what kind of advice you would give?
I guess my biggest advice would be, this goes along with a lot of things that we've already been talking about throughout our time here, but ask questions, reach out, the networking and finding a mentor, believing that all of these dreams are achievable. There are pathways like Propel or others out there that will help you along the way and make this dream come true. So reach out and do your research and take advantage of any opportunity that you see out there in front of you. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. Couldn't say it better. And I was actually looking at something else, because I wanted to come back to Kelvin and just talk in general about the application process for these different aspects of Propel. So the first one obviously is the pilot one. Can you go over that again in terms of what the general process is to apply, and also what website maybe they should go to find out more information?
Yeah, our website is propel.delta.com, and that is the starting point for anyone who's interested in joining the program for any of our different pathway options. So when they go to that website, they will see information tailored to each of the different pathways: the collegiate side, the company side, the academy side, as well as our community pathways. And they can basically follow the steps to fill out an initial questionnaire that basically is there to determine their eligibility for the program. And then there's a way to actually get access to the full application, where they will fill out all the information about their educational background and employment background and flight training history if they have previous experience. And then I'll go into our selection process where we'll review that and move them through for consideration. But the first place to go would just be our website, propel.delta.com.
Yeah. Kelvin, now we have to talk about you a little bit. You're originally from Georgia, right? And you've been with Delta how many years?
This year I marked my 25-year anniversary with the company.
25 years. Where did that all start?
So although I've been in Georgia a long portion of my life, my father was an FAA, had a long career with the FAA, so I traveled constantly and moved constantly as a kid. Although aviation was in my blood from that perspective, I thought I was going to go a different route in college. I was fully planning on a journalism career. While I was after I graduated and was pursuing different options, I started what I thought was going to be a summer job at Delta, working in their reservations department, and ended up never leaving. So it does get in your blood. In my particular case, I sort of navigated into the human resources side of Delta. That's where the majority of my career has been spent, supporting different divisions in the company and different sort of functions within the HR space. and was just fortunate enough to be the HR person supporting flight operations when Propel was created in 2018. So I had visibility to what was going on with that, and what was being created, and I had an interest in jumping into the fray. So I was fortunate enough to be hired as a manager in the 2019 timeframe. Moved into administering the program, and at this point, it's been really the joy of my career to see it take off. What I've been occupying myself with has really been building a dream team to run Propel. I think I've done that with folks like Martin and Jackie, and then encouraging those who have been successful in the program, like Hemal and Ronald, to help us out with supporting the program. So, and that's been a really key feature for us. So now that we have program graduates, we're able to take them back to, like in Hemal's case, we can have her speak to a group of Delta employees who may be interested in pursuing this and say, I'm someone who was like you, I was sitting in your seat. And I've now been able to, with the help of Propel, navigate this career, and I'm now, a Delta pilot. In Ronald's case, being able to go back to his alma mater at MTSU and speak to a group of students and say, I did it, and I'm proof that it can be done. And that goes to really, to your question around, youth outreach. How do you inspire people? I think we can now say that this career, although it's still challenging, and there are still cost involved, and obviously obtaining all your FAA certificates and ratings, it is more accessible today than it ever has been. There are opportunities for there are scholarship opportunities. There's financial contributions being made by our program to help people achieve it. So it's something that can definitely be done. And being a part of this, especially at this stage in my career, has just been incredibly rewarding.
As someone who's comes from the beginning of this program, any advice that you would add amongst what everybody else has said to young people that are watching this, or their parents or counselors or teachers, about them getting involved in Propel and in aviation?
Yeah, it's interesting. I get that question a lot. And even in my case, as someone who went to high school in the Atlanta area, in Delta's backyard, my teachers, my guidance counselors never really talked about aviation as a career field, and that was really such a shame. I think that things are slowly starting to change with that you are starting to see more and more that aviation is becoming now talked about in terms of a career of interest for young people. So it may be challenging for some people early on to get all the information that they need to be able to pursue this career, but the resources are out there. So I think really diligent, as Martin talked about, building that network, finding people in the aviation space who can guide you and help you along the way. That's really it. Once you build that support structure, you'll be able to find out all the information that you need and pursue an amazing career.
Yeah. Well, for those of you who do or aren't familiar, I as I wrap the show up, I like to do an around the room and get some final comments from everybody. Ronald, I'm going to start with you on that and see if you have anything else you'd like to add to our audience, for our audience to hear, as someone who is doing really well with this program, or as a result of this program, and now a first officer flying 737s and moving on with their career.
Sure. Yeah. If there's anybody that's still interested in aviation and not even sure how to get started, I think a good place would be just find a local flight school and just try to see how it's possible to get started. And you can find out about the Delta program easily that way, or like it's just looking us up online and just asking around, asking questions, sending emails, and just also social media. I know that's kind of the thing these days, is go follow the Delta Propel. They have Instagram, and that's a good way to stay connected. Sometimes they're doing events in the airport or around the Atlanta area in different cities. That's a great time to come and just meet people and just figure out how to get your foot in the door. So that's what I like to add. And it's been a pleasure talking to you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hemal?
Just to piggyback off of what Ronald was saying, I think the important part is collecting mentors. That's what I do. I have a whole bunch of pilot mentors that I have that I talk to, and you could have one, you could have 20. It doesn't matter, as long as they're kind of guiding you in the right direction or the direction that you're wanting to go in. And just to add on, I know we're here to talk about Propel, but I'm also a product of the other side of Delta. Flying is a great job, but it's not the only job that's available in the aviation industry. And a lot of these individuals have definitely talked about how happy they are in their job. So if you're interested in aviation, just talk to an aviation enthusiast. Us as pilots, we love talking about ourselves and our tracks. So, just find a local school, like he said, or go take a discovery flight if you're really interested in flying and see what that experience is like. And then you'll see if you've been bit by the bug or not, and be appreciative. I think for me, you have to have gratitude and appreciate the people around you too that are kind of guiding you in that direction as well.
Yeah, you just hit on, well, first of all, that's what all things aviation and aerospace is about. It's not only about being a pilot or a mechanic or the obvious, but it's about all of the plethora of opportunities in the industry, whether it's in the airline industry or another aspect of aviation, including space exploration and everything. It's just wide open. And particularly in recent times, it's even I was going to say, I guess more wider open. It's just a great opportunity. So I'm stumbling all over myself. So I'm going to move on to Jackie and let Jackie have some closing comments.
My closing comments would be, we get asked basically every day by individuals who are interested in this career path and they don't know where to start. They don't know what the first steps are or next steps, depending on where they're at. And like I was saying earlier, just don't be afraid to reach out, whether it's to our team or anyone out there that's able to help you along the way. Don't be afraid to take that first step.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin?
I give this piece of advice to everyone that I talk to that's starting out in the industry, or even those that are in it, and it's never turn down an opportunity to learn something new, go on a tour, or do something different. I've had more once-in-a-lifetime opportunities in my professional career than anyone should, and I've learned a lot and had some amazing memories and some amazing things along the way, and it's also opened a lot of doors. So if it's a tour, if it's an opportunity to meet with someone, if it's an opportunity to go to an info session or attend an event, if you can swing it, do it, because you will learn a lot. Whether it's flying one of our A350s into Oshkosh for the AirVenture Air Show a few weeks ago, to helping passengers get on their way in the airport through a volunteer program that we have for management employees. I try my best to be active and involved in everything and learn as much as I can, because there's so much cool stuff to do, and it will help you be a better pilot or professional in the aviation. It's not pilot or professional, pilot and professional, because all of our pilots are professional. But with that, it'll help you as you go in the industry too.
Hey, it's just a great industry. And once you get in this industry, you won't leave it. It's just the way it is. As I'm known to say, Kelvin, take us home.
Sure. Well, thanks, Vince, for having us back on to talk about the latest happenings with Propel and sharing that information with your listeners. Last thing I would add is just that this is an incredible time to be pursuing this career. The industry is hiring like crazy, and we would love to have everyone who's interested in learning more about our program to reach out to us. We're happy to help, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I really appreciate being able to do this update about your program, especially the way it's grown and how effective and successful it is to date. I also have to compliment you, Hemal and Ronald. You guys are great representatives of the industry, and it's really great to see you still in the an early stage of your flying career, and knowing that you guys are dangerous. You're going to be doing a whole lot of great things. So wish you both the best as you further your careers. And I thank all of you, Jackie, Martin, and Kelvin, for making yourself available for us to hear about what's going on with Propel by Delta.
Well,
So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Vince.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well wishes.
Yeah, thank you very much. So All Things Aviation and Aerospace is a video webcast and an audio podcast presentation of the Private Air Media Group. and available to watch on demand via my Private Air Media YouTube channel, Facebook Live page, and LinkedIn Live page. We're on all of those right now, but you can also get it on demand later. Also as an audio only version, as in a podcast, available on Spotify, Apple, or whatever podcast listening platform you choose to listen to your podcast on. Next week, you will hear all about one of the organizations that is dedicated to keeping the historical perspective of aviation relevant, the National Aviation Hall of Fame. I'll be talking with their leadership about all the things that they're doing, including their upcoming enshrinement. Until then, please take care, stay safe flying if you're a pilot like me, and blue skies. All the best and have a great one.